3 sinister true Stalker-Ex tales revealed, haunted lives and terrifying secrets exposed. Sarah felt it in her bones, that unsettling churn in her stomach as she locked the door, the echo of the deadbolt screaming for safety. Maplewood, once a sanctuary, now morphed into a claustrophobic cage. Each day she glanced out at her quiet suburb, half expecting a figure to materialize from the past. A reminder: her ex-husband Jake was still out there, lurking in the shadows. It started innocently enough texts that made her skin crawl but had no immediate threat. "I saw you at the grocery store today. How's that oat milk working out for you?" She dismissed it at first. It felt like annoying harassment. But as Jake's messages rolled in, they became increasingly sinister. Details about her life, the things only someone close would know, twisted her heart with terror, bringing the pit of dread deeper. "I know when you leave for work." Each notification buzzed with electric fear. Her fingers trembled each time she picked up her phone. She tightened the reins on Mia, canceling plans, saying, "No, you can't hang out with friends this weekend." With every moment she kept Mia close, her comfort manifested into paranoia. Their once open yard felt like a trap, the streetlights flickering in the deepening twilight whispered secrets. The warmth of neighborly chats grew cold when Sarah noticed how the Johnsons' laughter evaporated, leaving stony faces behind closed curtains. Inside, the nights stretched long. Flickering shadows danced on her walls, haunting memories of laughter now twisted by isolation. Sarah's heart raced every time she caught Mr. Cole watching her from his yard, that unsettling intensity sending shivers down her spine. He used to wave; now, he barely offered a nod. Was he one of them? Then she noticed it, the empty house at the edge of Maplewood. It had always been a derelict eyesore, but now it looked like a beckoning grave. She approached, her footfalls muffled on the cracked pavement, every instinct screaming at her to turn back. Yet, an irresistible curiosity launched her forward. Peering through the dust-covered windows, she caught glimpses of movement inside. Shadows shifted like ghosts, whispering secrets she couldn't understand. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." But after the camera returned, Jake's messages escalated. "You can't hide forever." As if he sensed her soul slipping away, like hands choking her breaths. She bit her lip, staring out the window, mind racing. Should she call the police? What if they laughed at her again? That night, a crash pierced the heavy air, echoing outside like thunder. Sarah rushed to Mia's room. Their eyes locked, panic frozen on her daughter's face. It was the same look they shared that dark night when reality had fled, leaving nothing but shadows and the frantic sounds of their footsteps on the empty streets. Days turned to a nightmare. Flickering streetlights turned off at the slightest gust. Hushed murmurs from neighbors became the wind's breath, taking form and curling tightly around Sarah. She blundered through her days, the weight of unshakable dread growing heavier, feeling suffocated more each moment. As night settled, filled with ominous silence, a shrill message illuminated her screen again, the face from her nightmares seemingly lurking closer. The line blared out to her, "I see you." With shadows long and dark looming over Maplewood, Sarah knew with a terror-filled heart the game was just beginning, and the real horror lay just beyond the edges of her broken sanctuary. The shadows crept across the room as the moonlight filtered through the thin curtains. Sarah gripped her phone, frantic breaths filling the void. "I see you." The message felt like a knife lodged in her throat. Mia huddled beneath her blanket, too frightened to move. "Mom? What's happening?" Her daughter's voice trembled, the innocence of childhood torn by fear. "Nothing, sweetie. Just go to sleep." But Sarah's voice faltered, the lies slipping away like sand through fingers. She couldn't sleep, not with Jake's haunting presence invading every thought. The dreadful anticipation clawed at her sanity. How long until he came for them? A loud thud shattered the simmering silence outside. Heart racing, Sarah rushed to the window. Staring into the blackness beyond her yard felt like staring into the abyss. She squinted, searching the shadows, each breath a whisper of doubt. Had he found her? The branches of the maple tree rustled ominously, shaped by an unseen hand, as if they held answers she desperately sought. But in that moment, the bushes darted slightly. Something or someone was out there. She grabbed Mia's hand, pulling her closer. Stay with me, baby. Are we safe? The quiver in Mia's voice sent a spike of ice through Sarah's blood. She wanted to scream that everything was fine and they would be okay. But deep down, her heart whispered the truth, they weren't safe. The vibrating buzz of her phone jolted her. Another message. Another stab of terror. Her hands shook as she took a deep breath. It was bad enough she was being hunted by a ghost of her past, but now the whispers of the neighborhood felt like a noose tightening around her neck. Look outside, came Jake's latest text. With dread hanging heavy in the air, Sarah edged away from the window, brushing the curtain aside. Her heart raced as she forced herself to peer outside. The damp chill hung around her like a miasma of unease. At first, nothing moved, then she saw him. Jake, illuminated by the flickering light of a dying street lamp. A ghostly figure, standing right at the edge of the sidewalk, his shadow elongating hungrily toward her home. Fear gripped her throat as she felt Mia trembling beside her. Was this the moment? Would he step into their lives again? Mama, please don't let him in. Mia's voice was barely a whisper, but it cut through the tension like glass. I want tea, I promise. Sarah choked, but the knot in her stomach twisted tighter. She moved to bolt the door, eyes flicking back to the demon outside. His lips curled into a sickening smirk, and he raised a hand, finger pointed directly at her. You're trapped, Sarah. Panic surged, blinding her. She grabbed the phone, ready to call 911, but froze. What if they didn't believe her? What could she possibly say between her breaths? She dialed slowly, hesitating, then hung up before it connected. This is my fault, she murmured, panic clawing at her voice. She should have never let him back in, never let those messages shake her enough to doubt her own decisions. Suddenly, a loud crash from the back of the house sent her heart plummeting. Mia, stay quiet! Sarah hissed, intuition screaming that something had just gone terribly wrong. She crossed the room, creeping toward the back door. She could hear the world outside falling away, the darkness swallowing every sound. The deeper she peeked through the glass, the more the air felt electric, tinged with the undeniable scent of dread. Each careful step felt like walking to the gallows. Was this the door to her doom? In the instant of hesitation, another text dinged on her phone. This one made her blood run cold. Guess where I'm coming from. Then the screaming began. What was about to happen would tear apart everything she thought she had kept hidden. And just like that, the night promised more terrifying revelations, spinning an even darker web of horror than she had ever imagined. Would they make it out alive, or would Maplewood become the prison that claimed their souls? The screams tore through the night, slicing into Sarah's frantic thoughts like jagged glass. It wasn't mere terror radiating from her daughter, it was the sound of pure, unfiltered fear, dragging Sarah back to the present. What was happening? Who was it that had brought this nightmare to their doorstep? She plunged into the shadowy hallway toward the sound, her heart hammering inside her chest. Each step felt heavy, the air thick and oppressive as she moved. She wanted to shield Mia from this horror, but the deeper she ventured, the more she felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Her sanctuary threatened. Mia! She called, her voice a trembling echo that met only silence. The kitchen loomed dark ahead, but a faint flicker caught her eye. With a trembling hand, she reached for the doorframe, heart racing with a surge of adrenaline. She could sense it, something was waiting for her. The wind howled outside, a chilling reminder of the reality that worst had yet to come. What if Jake had found a way inside? Just as her fingers brushed the doorknob, the kitchen light flickered back on, startling her. At that moment, she caught a glimpse of Mia's pale face, cheeks streaked with tears. In her small hands, she clutched a kitchen knife, pointed toward the door, body tense as if preparing for battle. "Mom!" Mia cried, voice quavering. "He's here!" Those words ignited a primal fear inside Sarah, a sharp reminder of her past, the dark memories clashing with the present. Did Jake really come through the back door? Was he back to finish what he started? "Mia, stay close," Sarah urged, her voice barely more than a whisper. Just then, another thud resounded behind the house. Sarah's instincts screamed for her to flee, yet her feet felt glued to the ground. She darted back to the window, scrunching her face against the glass, praying it was just a figment of her imagination. But as soon as she squinted into the darkness, there he was. Jake stood behind the maple tree, his eyes glinting in the moonlight like malevolent stars. "Let us in, Sarah. It's cold out here," he called mockingly, words slipping into her mind like venom. She stepped back from the window, heart pounding. The fear was suffocating. The back door creaked, a low, sinister sound sending shivers down her spine. He was taunting her, playing with her, and she wouldn't he let him in. Not again. "Mom, we can't stay here," Mia urged, eyes wide. "He's going to break in." But where could they go? The house felt like a fragile shell, no more than a fading illusion of safety. With a tight grip on Mia's hand, Sarah turned back toward the kitchen. Frantic thoughts swirled. Should they hide? Escape? But how? With a sudden burst of resolve, she dashed to the oldest window in the house. "Mia, help me!" She pushed at the wooden frame, but it stuck stubbornly. The sound outside grew louder, footsteps crunching across leaves, Jake's laughter echoing in the night. "Can't you see? You belong to me," his voice oozed from outside, dripping with a threat. Finally, the window yielded, groaning as it swung open. The fresh air rushed in, tugging at Sarah's hair like a cold, cloying whisper. "Climb out," she urged, her voice straining against rising panic. "Mama, what about you? Just go. I'll follow. Trust me." Mia hesitated, fear warring with the instinct to obey, but Sarah squeezed her hand, urging her into the open night. As Mia slipped through, a loud crash from the back of the house jolted them both. His voice thundered from inside, rage and terror magnified. "Where are you going, Sarah?" In that heartbeat, realization hit Sarah like a slap. It was now or never. They were out of time. She scrambled onto the window ledge, ready to leap into the unknown. Just as she was about to follow her daughter, darkness folded around the house, the oppressive weight of dread worming its way back to her. "Mia!" she shouted into the night, her heart racing. What awaited them outside? Had they escaped, or only stepped deeper into the abyss Jake had made? The silence that followed felt thick, wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. From the shadows, something stirred, something that would prove that escape wouldn't be as easy as they hoped. And then, an eerie voice echoed from behind her. "Did you think I'd let you go so easily?" The night promised terror, and as Sarah stepped into the uncertainty, she knew the real game had only just begun. The night air was frigid as Sarah squeezed through the window, her lungs burning with a mix of urgency and fear. She landed on the grass below, knees buckling slightly upon impact. Distant shivers crept along her spine as she turned to look back at the house. The darkness inside seemed alive, pulsating with a sinister energy. "Mia!" she called, scanning the yard, her voice shaky. There was no response. Panic surged as her heart pounded, thrumming in her ears. "Mia!" She stepped further into the open, eyes darting around for any sign of her daughter. The night was thick, the shadows long. Each rustle in the leaves made her jump. A gnawing dread settled in her gut. Had Mia made it out? Just then, a glimmer out of the corner of her eye caught her attention. A soft whimper came from the bushes along the fence. Sarah dashed towards it, her heart racing, part of her praying it was Mia, while another part warned her of the danger lurking in the darkness. "Mia!" she hissed, bending low, using her hands to sweep away the branches. There she found her, trembling and wide-eyed, clutching the knife like a life-preserver. "Mom," Mia choked out, tears glistening on her cheeks. "What if he sees us? What if he finds us?" The fear in Mia's eyes stabbed at Sarah's heart, solidifying her resolve. We have to keep moving. He won't just let us go, her voice barely above a whisper. She glanced back at the house. Yet Jake's heavy footsteps were suddenly unmistakable. They thundered against the wooden stairs. Mia, we can't hide here, she urged, grabbing her daughter's arm and pulling her away from the bushes. We need to go to the neighbor's. Fingers shaking, she scanned the street ahead, the looming shadows of the night contrasting the faint halo of a single streetlight a few houses down. It felt impossibly far. As they sprinted across the yard, breathless and frantic, each step crunched against the fallen leaves. Fear was a wild animal inside Sarah, clawing to take control. She glanced back, nothing yet, but she knew it wouldn't be long. Mama! Mia's voice broke through the tears. What if he comes? We won't let him, Sarah lied, trying to project confidence. Stay low, keep moving. Suddenly, a sharp bark from the house sent a jolt of terror through Sarah. The back door slammed with ferocious strength, the echo like an explosion. It was too close. Jake was out. They dashed into the street, the gravel crunching beneath their feet. The light from the street lamp felt inadequate, flickering ominously as if warning them of an approaching storm. But then, fear turned into dread as they heard that low, mocking laughter spiraling in behind them. You think you can escape? Jake's voice taunted, slicing through the night, wrapping around them like a noose. Mia's grip tightened around Sarah's arm. Run! Sarah shouted, propelling them forward, heart racing. The sound of footsteps echoed like thunder, drawing nearer, fueled by rage and hunger. As they made it to the neighbor's house, Sarah banged on the front door, desperation surging through her veins. Come on, please! Open up! Her eyes darted toward Mia, who was trembling against her sturdiness. In that instant, the door creaked open, revealing a confused elderly couple. What's wrong? The woman asked, peering over her glasses, her face a pale shadow against the darkness. Please, Sarah gasped, we need help. But before the couple could respond, a figure emerged from the shadows behind them, a silhouette twisted and distorted. Where do you think you're going? Jake's voice sliced through the air, as chilling as the night itself. Time seemed to slow. The couple's eyes widened in realization, fear spreading across their faces. Mia, run! Sarah screamed, pushing her daughter through the open door. She turned, eyes wide with terror, desperate for escape. But as the couple began to close the door, she felt a cold grip on her shoulder. Did you think you could really leave? His breath was a chilling whisper on her neck. With a heart racing like a wild drum, Sarah threw herself into the house, slamming the door closed, but she could already feel the darkness pressing in. Inside, the night had only just begun. What would it take to keep them safe? Would the neighbors be allies or just another layer of deception? Inside the elderly couple's home, the air felt suffocating. Shadows stretched across the walls, the soft light flickering from an overhead lamp casting a haunted glow. Sarah's heart raced as she turned to see the doors shut, sealing them in, but the rattling thud against the wood sent chills racing down her spine. We need to lock it! She shouted, hurriedly moving toward the door, but Mia had already darted to the nearest window, pressing her face against the glass as if bracing for impact. Mom, he'll see us! Her daughter cried, eyes wide, glancing back over her shoulder. I know! Sarah hissed, panic clawing at her throat. The elderly couple stood frozen, paralyzed by disbelief, exchanging terrified glances. Please help us! She pleaded, her voice laced with desperation. We need to barricade the door! Without hesitation, the woman nodded, fear dawning in her features. Together, they shoved a nearby side table against the door while the old man closed the curtains, blocking out the moonlight creeping in. Who is he? The woman gasped, her voice trembling as she stole cautious glances toward the door. Just some maniac, Sarah said, holding Mia close. We just need to. A loud crash echoed through the house, making everyone jump. It was a sound of splintering wood, a threat that slithered under their skin. Jake was trying to force the door open, and each impact felt like a countdown to calamity. He must have followed us. Mia trembled, her voice small and frightened. Stay low, Sarah instructed, determined to keep her daughter safe. We can't give up. There's a back exit, right? Yes, the man replied, his voice steady but his hands shaking. Through the kitchen. But another thunderous slam reverberated, sending a shiver cascading through them. They had no time to think. The fragility of their sanctuary felt brittle under Jake's mounting rage. Go! Now! Sarah urged, propelling Mia forward and pushing aside the elderly couple. They hurried toward the back of the house, praying for safety behind the walls that felt like they were crumbling around them. They reached the kitchen, a tiny, cramped room filled with the stench of old food and dust. The door leading outside hung slightly ajar, beckoning. We can make it! We just have to get outside! Sarah's voice cracked with fear. Mia took a deep breath, clutching her knife like a lifeline. But what if he catches us? What if he's right behind us? As Sarah opened the back door, the cool night air hit them like a slap. A part of her knew they were still far from safety. She glanced back at the elderly couple, who were hastily gathering their valuables, terror etching their faces. Stay back! Jake's voice cut through the night, deep and menacing. The door he was pounding against creaked ominously. You can't hide forever! You chose the wrong house! Time spun. The little bit of hope they had clung to was unraveling. Sarah turned to Mia. You run! Get as far as you can! The weight of her words felt heavy. She wanted to protect her daughter from whatever monster lurked beyond that door, but that meant facing whatever nightmare was chasing them. No! I want to leave you! Mia screamed, tears spilling down her cheeks. Now, Mia! Sarah's shout silenced her protests. Go! Just as her daughter turned to sprint away, a shattering sound erupted from the front of the house. Jake had breached the threshold. Desperation clawed at Sarah's insides. She pushed Mia through the door and sought to follow, but the footsteps pounded behind them, relentless. Mia! Keep running! Sarah screamed, but the words felt short, powerless against the impending threat. As they dashed into the dark street, Sarah felt something cold and metallic touch the back of her neck. The air turned thick, and reality shattered as she glanced up into Jake's eyes glinting with madness. In that breathless moment, all hope slipped through her fingers. Would there ever be a moment to catch her breath? Would it be too late for both of them? The night wasn't finished with them yet. The world narrowed down to the quickening beat of Sarah's heart as she felt the cold press of steel against her skin. Panic surged through her, mingling with disbelief. Jake's face twisted into a manic grin as he reveled in their terror. Time distorted. It felt like waves crashing in an ocean of dread. Good to see you again, Sarah, he taunted, his voice oozing with sinister glee. Did you really think you could run away? You're mine! The weight of truth crashed down on her. He'd found them. Again. But Sarah wasn't ready to succumb. With every ounce of strength, she twisted away from him, pushing forward, but as she turned, the trap tightened. She felt the blade graze the back of her neck, just barely avoid being cut, but the fear was enough to freeze her limbs. Mia! She screamed, her voice tearing through the night like a knife, hoping her daughter was far enough. Run! Don't look back! The sound of footsteps echoed on the pavement as Jake lunged forward, his intent blazing in his eyes. Sarah glanced around frantically for anywhere to hide. The street was grimy and deserted. Heavy shadows cloaked the dark corners, leaving no sanctuary in sight. Jake rushed at her, and she darted down an alley, hoping it led somewhere safe. She moved like a ghost, slipping through the darkness, her heart pounding against her ribs. Was Mia safe? She couldn't think about that now. She had to keep moving. Dusty trash cans tripped beneath her feet as she stumbled deeper into the alley's maw. Every sound, cans clattering, glass crunching, sent sparks of fear shooting through her. Behind her, Jake's laughter echoed, menacing and terrifying. You'll tire eventually. You can't escape me. Just ahead, she spied a narrow path between two buildings, shrouded in shadow. Desperation fueled her, and she darted through, praying it would lead her to a street filled with life. Instead, she found herself in a dead-end courtyard, bathed in sickly yellow light that flickered from a single street lamp. Her breath came in ragged gasps as she pressed herself against the cold brick wall, trying to think. There was nowhere left to run, and he would be here any second. The air hung, thick and suffocating, every second stretching out painfully. Sarah! Jake's playful sing-song voice drifted through the alley just behind her. It sent shivers up her spine. Come out, wherever you are! The courtyard felt like a cage closing around her. Sarah's mind whirled, searching desperately for anything that she could use. She spotted an old bicycle lying on its side, rusted and forgotten. Without thinking, she grabbed the metal frame and readied herself. Suddenly, he stepped into the courtyard, and the light caught his crazed eyes. They danced with a wild hunger, a feral intensity that made her stomach churn. Oh, he sneered when he saw her. Looks like we're at an impasse. But I know how to break it. She brandished the bike at him, a fragile shield against the storm. You'll have to come through me first, she shouted, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and fervor. Jake laughed, low and chilling. This is going to be fun. With ferocity she didn't know she possessed, Sarah surged forward, swinging the bike wildly. Metal clashed against his outstretched hands as they collided, each blow meeting fierce resistance. But even as adrenaline surged, a glimmer of doubt crept in. She was only postponing the inevitable. The hollow laugh of Jake echoed as he regained his strength. What will you do when all your fury fades? He sneered, pressing forward. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out, shattering the night's tension. The bullet whizzed past her ear, sending a shockwave through her body. Jake staggered back, shock etched on his face as he clutched his arm. Who had shot? With the chaos swirling around her, Sarah's heart raced anew. The moment hung like a tightrope over the abyss of what could happen next. She turned, eyes darting for any sign of rescue or for Mia. There was no time to waste. The night held its breath, and the hunt was far from over. Where was the safety she craved? The shadows quivered under the gunmen's gaze as they faced the lurking madness of Jake, and a question burned: would they fight together, or would the night consume them all? The tension crackled in the air as the haunting silence that followed the gunshot seemed to amplify Sarah's panic. She spun around, searching for the source. There, in the shadows, stood a figure, half hidden behind the broken fence. He held the gun, still smoking, aimed directly at Jake. Get away from her! The stranger yelled, voice steady yet urgent. Sarah's heart raced. Who was this man? Could he really be her savior? The moment felt surreal, everything occurring in slow motion as Jake's expression morphed from confidence to pure rage. Who the hell are you? Jake hissed, voice dripping with venom. Blood trickled from his arm, painting the pavement a dark crimson. Someone who's had enough. The gunman fired back, tightening his grip. Jake's snarl echoed in the courtyard, a chilling sound that sent shivers down her spine. You think you can stop me? You don't know who you're dealing with. Sarah, caught between the two men, could sense the impending darkness as they squared off. Her instinct screamed at her to run, to grab Mia and escape this nightmare. But the gunman remained her only source of hope, yet danger still lurked just over the horizon. Just stay back, Sarah, he said, eyes locked on Jake. He's dangerous. But Sarah couldn't tear herself away. She remembered the laughter, the chilling mania in Jake's eyes, the way he had reveled in her fear. Mia, she whispered, fear tightening her throat. Could she risk it all? In a moment of clarity, muscle memory kicked in. I need to find Mia. Before she could think further, Jake snapped a glance back at her, lips curling into a malevolent smile. You really think she's safe? The gunman flinched. Stay close to me, he urged, but kept his aim steady on Jake. Look at you, Jake mocked, staggering forward despite the gun. If you think that rattly old toy will save her, you're as foolish as she is. Get back! The gunman shouted. Panic bled into his voice now. Time stretched unbearably as Sarah's instincts kicked in again. She wanted to scream for Mia not to come near. We need to go! Then, just as she shifted her gaze down the dark alley, a rustle caught her ear, a shadow moving, small and quick. It was Mia! Mama! Her daughter's voice broke through the night with the innocence of childhood, but it was a beacon of danger now. Mia, no! Sarah shrieked, her heart lurching. The gunman's eyes widened for a brief fraction of a second, and right then, Jake lunged at them, adrenaline fueling the chaos. Bang! Another shot rang out, this time echoing through the air like a scream, but it wasn't fired by the stranger. Sarah froze, watching Mia, who had stumbled into the courtyard, her tiny body in the path of hysteria. The gun blast had originated from somewhere nearby, and the realization swept over Sarah like icy water. Mia, run! She yelled, but it was too late. Jake paused mid-lunge, eyes flicking to the new direction. A series of shadows emerged from the blackness of the alley, figures out of nightmares gliding into the sickly light. At least 3 of them, clad in dark clothes, approached with menacing precision. Each step echoed their intentions: malice, chaos, terror. Mama! Mia cried, her small voice clashing with the suffocating dread. The weight of despair settled heavily on Sarah's chest. She felt paralyzed as Jake chuckled darkly, delighting in the unfolding chaos. You're surrounded, my dear Sarah, he sneered. No one is coming to save you. The courtyard was a trap, and she had walked right into it. The strangers pointed their guns, not at Jake, but at her and Mia. Clear the way for him, one shouted, a voice dripping with authority. Her heart felt as if it might burst. No! She gasped, desperate to deter the onslaught, desperate to protect her daughter. As chaos reigned, a question burned brightly. A friend? A foe? Who were these new men? And how deep did Jake's power extend into the night? The answer lay just beyond the shadows, slipping further into darkness as Sarah's heart raced. Would they all survive this night? The gunfire crackled again, a sudden burst in the vast unknown as more shadows swirled, emerging from the oppressive night. What other horrors awaited? The atmosphere thickened with dread as the shadows closed in. Sarah could see their faces, twisted with eagerness, eyes glinting with a feral light that chilled her bones. A chorus of muffled voices echoed from beneath dark hoods, their words unintelligible, like a chant reciting something sinister. Mama, I'm scared, Mia cried, her small form trembling, tears glistening in her wide eyes. The innocence in her voice was a piercing contrast to the adult world crumbling around them. Somewhere deep inside, Sarah's instincts kicked in like a primal alarm. She had to protect Mia, had to shield her from the darkness creeping closer, but her body felt heavy, anchored to the cobblestones of reality, twisted in horror. Move! The man with the gun commanded, urgency cracking through his bravado as he positioned himself between Jake and the dark figures. Get behind me! But before they could react, Jake chuckled, the sound slicing through the air with malignant glee. You think you can protect them? You're all just pawns in a game far bigger than you know. He gestured toward the encroaching figures, who remained motionless as if awaiting a signal. Sarah's heart pounded, and a rush of adrenaline flooded her veins. Fear morphed into a fierce protectiveness. Mia, hold on to my hand, she shouted, steadying herself. They had backed into a corner, and yet there was an ember of hope. Perhaps they could slip past. Mama, I don't want to, Mia whimpered, clutching onto her mother's leg, causing another wave of anguish to crash against Sarah's resolve. Suddenly, the lead figure in shadow stepped forward, gun raised, the night casting an oppressive veil over everything. You have something of ours, Jake. You've gone too far. There's no turning back, is there? Jake shot back, his rage flaring like a firework. The masked men shifted subtly, their weapons aimed as if they were a part of some choreographed performance. Just as the tension peaked, another gunshot ruptured the atmosphere, cracking like thunder. Sarah flinched, feeling the misplaced wind of a bullet was by her ear. Chaos rippled through the courtyard, unraveling the carefully woven threads of terror. Get down! The gunman yelled, dropping to one knee as bullets fired into the air from the shadows. The ground shook with violent energy, and in that chaos, Sarah seized the moment, pulling Mia close. Run! Now! They darted to the side, adrenaline fueling their flight. Sarah never stopped to look back, her instincts overriding the paralyzing fear. They weaved between debris, the moonlight glinting off the shattered glass and twisted metal, a grim reminder of what was at stake. But the haunts of their pursuers were relentless. Shadows lunged after them, voices shrieking with unearthly rage, weaving between the shots that rang out around them. Mama! I can't run anymore! Mia cried, halting amidst the chaos. The tremor in her voice gripped Sarah's heart like a vice. Don't stop! Sarah screamed, wrapping her arm around Mia's waist, half dragging her daughter, half carrying her as they dove behind an overturned dumpster just in time. Stay low! She whispered urgently, her breathless words filled with a wild fear. Holstering their firearms, the men responsible for the darkness leaned in, scanning for their prey. Their eyes glinted in the shadows, betraying a hunger that chilled Sarah to her core. Mama! Mia clutched at Sarah's shirt, voice trembling. A nearby figure shouted, Where are they? They can't have gone far. In that moment, fear twisted into determination. Outnumbered, surrounded, but with precious seconds to think, somewhere out there in the fray, Sarah felt a flicker of recognition. Jake's power, it's their trap. The words slipped out, forming a cacophony in her mind. There had to be a way to expose the web he'd woven. Jared had a plan. She had heard bits of him coming up with ways to take Jake down. But what if they wouldn't he let them go long enough to implement that plan? As the searchers prowled closer, inching toward where they hid, Sarah fought against hopelessness. They needed to find a way out. As one leaned down, peering into the shadows, a spark ignited in her, the potent fire of survival. Then, a voice broke through the din, a voice that sent a tremor through her insides. This isn't over, Jake. You will pay for what you've done. As the figures stalked forward, Sarah's pulse raced against the ticking clock of fate. Would they find a way to escape? Would they discover the secrets embedded in the night, or become victims of a more horrific game? The darkness around them loomed large, but perhaps, just maybe, there remained a sliver of light held tightly in Sarah's heart. They had to move. But where would they go? Would fleeing lead to survival, or plunge them deeper into Jake's ruthless world? The shadows lengthened again, and the hunt resumed. The air grew heavy around them as they crouched behind the dumpster, silence hanging thick like fog. Sarah's gaze flicked to Mia, whose small body trembled visibly as she pressed against her mother. Time stretched out, each heartbeat feeling like an echo in the void, the tension electrifying the air between them. Stay quiet, Sarah whispered, her voice barely a breath. The words felt like a prayer more than an order. The figures moved closer, the glint of their eyes flashing in the shadows. Sarah's stomach churned with fear, the primal instinct to flee battling with the stark reality of being trapped. The intense dark was suffocating, every noise around them amplifying her sense of dread. I can't breathe, Mama, Mia whimpered, a cracked whisper that sliced through Sarah's resolve like glass. Just a little longer, sweetheart, Sarah murmured, forcing a smile that didn't feel real. The girl needed hope. It was all she had left to cling to. But as they held silent, the tall figure with the gun stepped forward with a menacing swagger, his voice dripping with contempt. Jake wanted them alive. But what if we took care of that little girl instead? He laughed softly, a sound devoid of humanity, unsettling and cold. Sarah's heart raced, pounding hard against her rib cage. Mama! Mia clutched tightly at Sarah's shirt, terror marking her small face. Horror gripped Sarah. No! Never! She felt the edge of the pistol in the ragged pocket of her jeans, the very same gun she had grabbed during the initial chaos. It felt foreign in her hand, warmth against cold fear. The instinct to protect fueled her. She had to make a choice. Behind me, Mia, she hissed, her voice tight. The hooded figure advanced, and in that moment, everything clicked into place. Jake had manipulated them, and snared them in a game where pieces were expendable. But maybe, just maybe, this very darkness could be used against him. In an act as reckless as it was desperate, she grabbed Mia's small wrist and yanked her away from the dumpster. Now! She shouted, darting towards a narrow alley opening just beyond the dumpster, an escape route barely visible in the dim light. Adrenaline surged as their feet hammered against the ground. The hunt continued, shouts piercing through the night like knives. "Over there!" rang out above the fray. The urgency clawed at Sarah's back, the looming nature of danger beckoning. "Don't look back!" she gasped. They plunged deeper into the labyrinth of shadows, heart thudding in sync with the thunder of pursuit. But the alley twisted unexpectedly, a dead end punctuated by a high brick wall. Panic lodged in her throat as they skidded to a halt. "Where do we go, Mama?" Mia's voice wavered, the fragile tinge of hope bubbling over to fear. "Trust me," Sarah replied, her eyes scanning frantically. There was no way back. Jake's nightmarish game had them cornered. Just then, darting through her mind like a flickering light, she remembered the old fire escape behind the alleyway. Its rusted frame jutted out like a skeleton against the inky sky. "There!" she pointed wildly. "Can you climb?" Mia hesitated, then nodded, determination flickering in her gaze. Sarah moved swiftly to the rusted ladder, her fingers shaking as she gripped the cold metal. As they ascended, Sarah's pulse pounded in her ears, drowning out the world. The hunter's snarls were closer now. She could feel the breath of danger breathing down her neck. Clenching her jaws, she urged Mia forward. "We're almost there. Running from the dark, we can't let it swallow us." They made it onto the rooftop, a momentary respite from the chaos below. But staring into the void of night, an unsettling thought settled in. They were now visible, standing on the precipice where every silhouette could betray them. Below, shadows moved like smoke, searching, lifting their hoods to reveal monstrous faces, full of fury and hunger for revenge. Sarah's heart sank. They weren't mere men anymore, they had become phantoms of something far darker. With tears streaming, Mia gripped her mother's hand tightly. "We want to make it, will we?" As confidence slipped through her fingers like sand, Sarah turned to the horizon, spotting a glimmer reflecting off something metallic. A flicker of hope? Or another twisted trap? "Mama?" Mia's voice was a thread tethering Sarah to reality. "We have to keep moving," Sarah replied, but doubt clouded her mind. They had escaped this horror only to find another looming close behind. Driven by instinct, she grabbed Mia's hand again, ready to leap into the unknown. But deep within her gut, she couldn't shake the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of an evil much larger than they'd ever imagined. Would they face the next challenge together, or was darkness stirring to claim them before they could step into the fragile glow of dawn? In the eerie silence atop the rooftop, Sarah's heart raced faster than her thoughts. They had outpaced Jake and the lurking shadows for now, but the night was far from over. The horizon glimmered with hope, yet the abyss behind them seemed to pulse with a malignancy that clawed at her sanity. "Mama, please," Mia whimpered, clutching her mother's shirt as if it were their lifeline against the darkness. Sarah squeezed her hand, desperate to convey courage even as anxiety tightened around her chest. Every hurried breath felt like a countdown. "We need to find a way to get out of here," she whispered, glancing back at the dark void below. Moments passed, and the sounds of pursuit became muffled as if they were mere echoes of a nightmare. Then, sizzling rage erupted from below, a distant shatter followed by furious yelling. "They're up there!" Jake's voice rumbled ominously, each syllable dripping with venom. Sarah's stomach twisted. "We have to move. Now!" she urged, adrenaline surging through her veins like wildfire. They quickly made their way across the rooftop, dodging the piles of debris and rusted pipework. The cold metal felt alive under her touch, sending chills through her spine. As they approached the edge, Sarah's eyes darted for anything that could offer an escape. Below, the alley's mouth gaped open, shadows lurked, but a fire escape on the adjacent building glimmered under a flicker of moonlight. Hope ignited within her. "There, Mia!" She pointed, voice rising over the din of chaos. An unseen force dragged them forward, urgency propelling them toward the fire escape. "Climb, sweetheart. We can get to another street," she urged. Mia nodded, determination, however flickering, sparking in her eyes as she climbed down the rungs. Just then, a disturbing roar emerged from the alley, a growl of anger that sent a freeze jolting down Sarah's spine. They were coming. They had to hurry. With trembling hands, Sarah followed, squeezing through the narrow bars and moving as fast as she could while keeping one eye over her shoulder. As the last rungs slipped away beneath her feet, Sarah landed hard on the pavement. Instinctively, she spun around, grasping Mia's hand tightly. "Come on!" But just as they broke free into the safety of the street, the light of dawn began to break on the horizon, offering a glimmer of hope, an opening to escape whatever horror awaited. But hope quickly shattered like glass. Jake stepped from the alleyway, flanked by his sinister accomplices, the shadows closing in. "Did you really think you could run forever?" His lips curled into that nightmarish grin again. The others stood menacingly behind him, eyes wild, glinting under the morning light. A flood of sheer terror coursed through Sarah as she felt the terrifying weight of their pursuit. "Keep going!" she screamed to Mia, fueling her resolve. She pushed her daughter ahead, knowing she needed to protect Mia with every ounce of her being. "Don't stop!" Sarah dashed forward, darting between cars, trying to find a hiding spot in the early morning bustle. But the hunt was relentless. Jake's voice rang out, amplified with malice. "You're mine! You always were!" A sharp scream built in Sarah's throat as she skidded around the corner, her senses heightened. Just then, with adrenaline, she spotted an old shed tucked at the end of the block. It was dilapidated and unwelcoming, but it felt like their only chance. "In there," she urged, pulling Mia as they bolted toward the entrance. Slamming the door shut behind them, panic surged as they scanned the darkened space, filled with cobwebs and the scent of must. Moments hung heavy, as silence threatened to swallow them whole. With her heart pounding, Sarah steadied herself, straining to hear beneath the frantic tempo of her pulse. Footsteps echoed outside, followed by hushed whispers. She could feel Jake's presence worming his way back through the morning shade. They were running out of time. "We can't stay here!" Mia's voice trembled, clear fear striking Sarah's heart anew. She knelt down, holding Mia's face between her hands. "Listen to me, darling. We have to be brave. Can you do that?" Tears brimmed in Mia's eyes, reflecting her innocence, her trust, a bond that felt unbreakable even in the face of danger. "Mama, I'm scared. I just want it to be over." Mia's voice cracked, raw and painful. I know. Sarah brushed the tears away. "But we're going to make it. We are stronger than this. Let us fight together." Suddenly, a loud bang echoed against the shed door, sending Sarah's heart racing. Jake was already at the door, furious and relentless. The whispered anger grew louder. Their presence was a storm, intimidating and powerful. With a fierce determination, Sarah grabbed the rusted shovel lying against the wall. "This is our home now," she shouted, courage flooding into her voice. "Whatever happens, I will protect you." She could feel Mia's resolve strengthening next to her. They were fighting back, no longer just victims. The door rattled, and just as it seemed on the verge of breaking through, Sarah heard a loud pop. The door splintered wider, and the shadows lunged, eager to reclaim their prey. But they were ready. "Stay back!" Sarah shouted, and with courage echoing in her heart, they charged forward. They had faced fear, betrayal, and darkness, and against all odds, they wouldn't back down now. In that moment, the hidden truth of the night unveiled a new layer. Sarah felt the fierce light of hope igniting within her. Their fight for freedom had just begun. Together, they stormed forward, ready to reclaim their lives. They dashed out, kicking through the door, taking back the light of the day that spread over Maplewood. With each stride, they could feel their strength building. They would find safety, reclaim their lives, and finally put an end to Jake's tyranny. And in that blazing moment, Sarah's heart soared. They were not just running for their lives, they were winning. Now it was time to take a stand. This was their world, and they would not let darkness claim it. The dawn welcomed them anew, one heartbeat, one step at a time. Get ready to rise, to flourish, and to embrace the power of life. And remember, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss a thing. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help others find this journey. Flood the comments with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about how Sarah and Mia conquered their nightmare. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion.